Fight!
Hello and welcome to Kick Punched, everybody. It's so good to have you here. I hope your day is going amazing, and I'm very, very excited for this project. What you see in front of you is one of my favorite characters of all time. This is Prison Mike, also known as Michael G. Scott from The Office. So I've been watching the series again, as I usually do each year, going through and just laughing my butt off, and decided I was going to do a kind of a caricature, stylized portrait bust of Prison Mike today. So I'm going to try to do this quickly, hopefully within an hour or two, and probably broken up into a couple of videos as opposed to my other video series where I do 6 or 7 videos at an hour a piece. I think those seem a little bit too daunting, but let me know in the comments what you all prefer. Do you prefer short, quick videos where I just kind of cover the basics, and or do you like the more drawn out series where you kind of dive more into the weeds of things? So what I'm going to do is jump right into Zbrush, and I think for this tutorial I'm not going to cover the very basics of Zbrush. It's going to be kind of more like an intermediate. So hopefully you're familiar with the navigation and the UI a little bit and the basics of how Zbrush functions, but I will try to cover things as I go and articulate what's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with Lightbox Tools over here and grab this Nick Z Human Male. And I'm going to click Hide over here and then just click and drag that guy out. And this is one of my favorite guys to start with when I'm doing like a humanoid type character, just because he's got a good topology, essentially. So his topology is fairly clean, and he's just basically ready to go. And so I guess first things first, I'm going to cover some of the, actually I had some of the reference up in my Clip Studio. So this is just some of the reference that I pulled. This is like the classic, like when you search Michael Scott on the internet, this is one of the first images that pops up. And just a different angle. Like I like a good 3/4 angle so you can kind of get the sense of the depth. Like obviously some of his defining features when you're doing like a caricature is his eyes are kind of inset and right up against his eyebrows, and his eyebrows are very kind of strong and prominent. And then he's got this large nose that kind of pops out with this upper part of his lip right here, and his mouth is a little bit smaller. He's got a pretty defined jawline, and his ears might be a little bit bigger than are usual, but I try to kind of achieve some of that in my caricature, and hopefully we're going to get that working just fine. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick and choose some of the things that I want to. I think on the body, first thing I'm going to do is just come down here to, go to Make Polymesh 3D, and that's just going to get rid of all the layers, and it's going to get rid of all the junk that we don't need within that. And then I'm going to snatch these eyeballs, and what you can do, you can append between tools by coming over here down to append, and it's going to be able to append the visible subtool that's active over here. And I'm probably not going to need the teeth, but just to be safe, let's grab those two. And then we may as well just grab the hair, as goofy as it looks. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on the hair because it's a stretch for what we need. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of everything that we don't need on this body mesh. So I'm just going to Control-Shift left-click on the vertices of this poly group so I can easily isolate the head. And just holding Control-Shift and Alt, I'm going to send that to the invisible layer. And then I'm going to Control-Shift left-click drag to invert that and go over here to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. So now we have just the head, which is exactly what we want. And we can start kind of pushing and pulling verts where we need. So I want more vertices to start with, so I'm going to hit Control D, and that's going to subdivide our geometry. And you can see this right here in the geometry drop down that we now have 2 subdivision levels. And one thing I like to do, I should point out too, is I have my concept art out or open behind the shell, the ZBrush shell, and I don't really like that, so I'm going to drag that over to my second monitor. And so just so I can have that open constantly, so I can just take a look. That's just the way I like to work. So, okay, so let's start with our large forms. And for me, as a sculpture artist, I like to just break things up and kind of compartmentalize my workflow into large, medium, and small details. And so right now, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, large forms, that's where I want to live. And so I'm going to start with the eyebrows and just using the snake hook brush, just kind of pushing those into place. And then let's start moving his nose around, because his nose is just such a prominent feature for him. And then the nose, looking at that 3/4 perspective is really good. Gives a really good reference for how things should be looking. So his nostrils are pretty flared and large. And let's get a good open nostril here. So again, just using the snake hook for all this for now. And then his nose does pull out pretty far, so I'm going to kind of accentuate that in his upper lip area. I know I said it has good topology, but I'm actually fighting this topology right now. It's kind of annoying. This edge flow's kicking my butt. Let's Control D again just to subdivide, give us some more to work with. And then I'm going to use the clay buildup brush and just scale up my size a good amount. And then moving over to my Dam Standard brush, or the Damien Standard. Get these kind of eye bags. There's a few layers of eye bags to Michael Scott. It's got a very interesting nose, actually. It really juts out, but there's also at the bridge of the nose, it does kind of inset quite a bit. And then my caricature is stylized, so I'm just going to Alt left click over to my eyes, and then first I'm going to switch on material and turn off Z add and get rid of the weird, if I can, get rid of the material painting that was going on there. That's why they were looking shiny. So I just turned on the M, turned off Z add, and then just painted the material. And I'm going to actually switch to RGB and paint out the RGB too, just for now. I don't need it. And then I'm going to move these guys, inset these guys just a little, maybe scale them up. And then we'll rotate the eyes later. That's like the last thing we'll do when we do the pose, when he's kind of glancing to the side of the camera. So that's one thing we're going to do. Using the Damien Standard, I'm going to pull out the bottom eye ridge just a little bit. Push in this guy. Do the same up top. And then just open those up because his eyes are so open and he's got that crazy look. So we're gonna round those eye shapes out just a smidge. Looks so crazy. It's fun though. Isn't that fun? So using the H polish, I'm going to actually hold Alt and pull out with that flatness. And I really like that's probably one of my favorite approaches with using that brush. And then he's got these very distinct mouth wrinkles, this kind of sneer going on, because he's obviously a hardened criminal former inmate in this particular scenario. So. And using the Move topological brush, I'm going to kind of accentuate this frown. His upper lips are almost not even there. They're so puckered. Again, using the Damien Standard and scaling it up that size and then just smoothing back. Let's get this very distinct crease right here. Maybe this mesh isn't good. Just fighting this topology. Switch back over to my actual reference or photo reference here. His neck is rather jacked. So in my stylized concept, as we can see here, his neck is pretty small. So I've kind of squashed everything in the Y direction and up and down, and just accentuated kind of all that aspect of it. So he has less of a neck, and his shoulders are very broad, and his head's kind of squashed down. So I'm gonna scale in the size of his neck and bring up his shoulders a good amount here. And then using the Damien standard, H polish, kind of come around that. So one thing that I highly recommend is just dropping up and down your subdivision levels frequently while you're doing the large form detailing. It just, when you have less polygons to work with, your brushes will just, the intensity of those brushes will work a little bit better for you. You'll fight those a lot less. So just be sure to drop up and down consistently. Now his ears definitely need some love, getting very mushy. So let's crank the detailing on these. I need to try and get this ridge to pop out a lot more. So I think I'm going to start with my inflate brush and just start going along that. And then going back to my Damien standard and carving that back in. And this little bump here. Guy back out a little. And in my concept, I have some sharper angles, which I like in the concept, but sometimes you implement those in 3D and they just don't work as well. So we'll just have to experiment with that. Like in the corner of his jaw comes to a point, and he's got this point in his ear, and we'll see if we like it. So bring the brow down. His brows are very pronounced and low. Needs some size to his nose. And then Damien standard again, going up our subdivision level, hitting D, and then holding Alt and pulling out with the Damien standard is an awesome approach too. I'll pop the details out. And again, let me know if I'm moving too fast, or if you prefer that I do share the basic navigations and all that stuff, the basics of ZBrush, or are we good to just dive in like I am? I'm still new to this teaching thing, so trying to figure out the best approach. And the Damien standard again to just carve the backs of this ear in. When working with ears, I like to think about, like, does this have a uniform thickness throughout the ear? Like, if subsurface scattering was to be run on this or rendered, how is that going to scatter? Is it going to scatter uniformly like an ear does, or is it going to have some weird thickness? So always be navigating around the ear, and kind of the ridge kind of goes in right here, and then obviously there's a crease that goes along the back. And if you don't get that right, then when you do render, and if you take it into Arnold or wherever, it's not gonna render accurately. So just be thinking of that stuff. So I'm trying to add that uniform thickness here behind the lobe of the ear. Probably don't need to overthink it for this guy. Okay, so I think that's good for now. Let's just rotate his eyes and get those into place. So I'm going to start with this eye and just mask off, control left click and mask this guy. And then I'm just going to center my pivot and then rotate that. And his eyes are so open, we need to see all of the iris. So invert my selection and then recenter my pivot and dropping that guy down too. Okay. And then I think I want to sharpen the edges of the eyebrow, just sharpen all the details in general. I think that's the look I want to kind of go for. For now. Nostrils get flared, but not too flared. This show is classic, by the way. It's timeless. Let's get these teeth out of the way. Sometimes what you can do, if your transform gizmo is off screen, you can click that button to switch to the legacy transform gizmo and then switch back, and it'll recenter the new transform gizmo into place. So that's a little pro tip, little secret for you. Make sure that you have recentered everything so it's not going to rotate weirdly. Oh, I hate this. I hate this thing. Okay. I find myself switching back to the original one more often than not, honestly. I guess I shouldn't say I hate it. Hate is a strong word. Okay, so now what do we got going here? We need some like little chin wrinkles. And Control D again, give them another subdivision level. I like to turn off symmetry for some of this work, just because no one is perfectly symmetrical, unless you're like Bradley Pitts or something. So, you know, push your detailing and then smooth the back. Push and then smooth. Give a little bit of a Adam's apple here. And then sharpen that. Let's switch back over to my... Usually I use Pure Ref for my reference, but I was too lazy to throw that all into Pure Ref. So I'm just using my Clip Studio right now. And so I have to switch betwixt my reference images, my concept art. It's kind of a tenderfoot mistake. So he does have some fairly prominent bags under the eyes. So right now I'm using the standard brush and just going over everything with the Damien standard and just really refining those best I can. Good thing to do with the eyes too is like drop down and look straight up to make sure that the shapes of your eyelids are conforming to like the sclera and the caruncula and all that stuff. Use my inflate and inflate out that upper eyelid, and then go along that with my DivKid standard, sharpen that, crease that out, and then my H polish as well. So that's H polishes jam right there. I love that. It's so satisfying. Okay, so now I've sufficiently creased those guys, I think. Let's go along the upper eyebrow too. Make sure that our symmetry is turned on. Good. Okay, great. This is looking weird right here. Let's use our DivKid standard and kind of turn down our intensity a little bit and just continue this crease up, just like so. And then we might have pushed this just a little bit too low, so I'm gonna rotate that up just a little and smooth that. And go to my clay buildup brush and just push these nostrils in just a little. Okay, I'm going to hit save now, and I don't even know if I set up the structure for this. Let's come in here and go to Assets, Michael. I'm going to create a folder called 1_Z and change Prison Mike 001. Make sure you add a version and his jaw might be a little too much. Bring that in just a little. And then we're only going to show a little bit of his hair because he's got his bandana on. So I'm just going to mask right here. Might as well just come all the way up and just do like a cap. So we're going to see the hair in the back here too. So in fact, let's refine the back of his head just a little bit. We haven't really touched this yet before we do that. So when we do the extraction, it's going to conform to the shape, so we just want to make sure that this is a little bit more in line. And going for stylization here. You'll notice that like ZBrush is a combination, at least for me, it's a combination of like maybe 4 brushes tops that I'm using to kind of get to this point. There's obviously specialized brushes too that we'll use, you know, for different things, but for the most part, I'm using like snake hook, H polish, clay buildup, smooth, DivKid standard. I'm going to open his eyes just a little bit, so Alt left click over to the face, the head geo. I've never seen a person with eyes more open than this. It's wild. I'm going to add some forehead wrinkles right here. Oops. clean up his bottom lip just a little. Crease this bottom deal right here, just a smidge. And then there's a little bit of a gap between the lips, so I'm just going to use my inflate here and just fill that in. And then clean up my upper lip area just a little bit with my H polish. Okay, cool. Gonna hit save. Smooth out that bottom lip wrinkle just a little. Kind of a V shape. And then I think I'm actually just going to use holding control. I'm not using my mask pen. I'm going to extract some eyebrows real quick and then move into the hair territory. So the way I did that, by the way, in order to blur your mask in the viewport, you can just hold Control, left click tap, and then you can sharpen it by holding Control Alt, left click tap. And then I'm going to come over here to Subtool and do an extract and leave it at 0.02 for a second. I'll go a little bit lower, 0.01, hit accept, and now we've got some eyebrows that we can work with in a separate subtool. So I'm going to go to Geometry Dynamesh and then rerun a Dynamesh. It's way too low. Let's crank it something. There we go. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and just helps to motivate this old geezer. I'm turning 40 this year, can you believe that? Wild. Not that 40's very old, but according to my kids, it's ancient. Okay. Pretty mushy, but they're good enough for now. I'll left click over and then Control left click and drag to clear your mask. And let's start drawing out like this part of the hair. Just come all the way around. And you can do this fun thing here. See if it'll work. You go to masking, and then go to auto region. Oh, it did the inverse, but we can just Control left click tap and it'll inverse that. So like if you make a circle and you want to just fill that circle in, you just go to auto region. In this case it didn't work because I have other stuff masked, but like if you're trying to do like scales or fun details like that, that's a really beneficial tool to use. Okay, so now I'm going to extract this and hit accept, and now we have hair, like a hair cap. Geometry's real high for some reason, so we're gonna Dynamesh this. Maybe do a broad inflate. In our deformation palette here, and then get this guy into place a little bit better. And again, like I says, we're gonna have this giant goofy looking bandana. Switch over to my concept. My concept is a little more squashed. It's getting a little bit methy, but want to be stylized. So this head shouldn't be as tall. Let's move into the bandana for now. Actually pull his neck forward just a little. Okay, so I'm just going to use the mask lasso and draw a lasso around where I want that bandana to go. we'll come over here to subtool and then go to extract and do a mesh extract. It's taking so long, I don't know why. And then clear our mask, and you'll notice that we have separate polygroups we can work with here. It's kind of weirdly polygrouped. I think it's because the head had those polygroups. So Control Shift left click on that red group, and then send this other group over, and we'll just make this one group that we can then kind of pull up for now. So using the transform gizmo, and we'll just like kind of get the rough shape of. And I'm actually just I'll delete this inner shell here. So add that to its own polygroup, or just run a geometry, modify topology, and just delete hidden. And then let's do a dynamesh on this guy overall. So I've got something there. Start to kind of get this into shape. Bring this down to the eyes. Glad we added those forehead wrinkles. We're not going to see them. Okay, let's turn off our symmetry and crank our resolution just a little bit, and then start to add the other details to kind of make this look more like a bandana. And use an H polish to run that guy around. A good brush for this too would be clay buildup. Add those kind of wrinkles. Damien Standard gonna crank the intensity. Kind of the Aunt Jemima look going on back here. And this is where it's tied it. And now I'm going to use the just a little bit better. Resolution just a little, and then using the snake hook brush with Sculptors Pro turned on, we'll try and pull out like some little deals that he's like a bow kind of thing. Turning off Sculptors Pro, moving into Damien Standard territory, and just introduce those kind of fabric-y details. This hair's getting in the way. You don't even need it hardly. Let's re-dynamesh this guy. Oops. Looks like I didn't have symmetry on, so I can come over here to modify topology and do a mirror and weld to kind of get things back into symmetry land. Bring down that little rat tail. For about 35 minutes. I'm going to try to keep this first video to 45 or so. I'm just going to continue to kind of detail some of this fabric detailing. Character. Prison Mike. What are some other characters I should make? Let me know. Think about doing like a Walter White or some Parks and Rec, Andy from Parks and Rec, or Ben Wyatt or somebody, or use like Angela from The Office too, all being all snooty. I think she's got a podcast too. It's pretty awesome. I started watching the extended cuts of the seasons on Peacock. They're really good. Got a couple extra shots in there that you've never seen before. Just keep cranking on the fabric detailing. You can do this forever. Just go on and on. Again, I'm just alt left clicking between subtools to easily access those. This hair's kicking my butt. Get this down to the eyebrow. So I'm hitting P on my keyboard and switching between my perspective modes. You can also change, I think this is the focal distance, so you can change it to like 24 or 18 if you'd like. Kind of give you a little more perspective on things. Let's start throwing in, before we wrap this video up, we'll add his, give him some clothing. Gonna do save, and then you can do a save next, and it'll make a new version for you, Prison Mike version 2. And I'm gonna extract my color first thing, so using the mask pen, let's paint a color. I had $1 for every collar I've made in Zbrush. I have tens of dollars at least. Just raking it in. So Control plus Alt and left clicking and tapping to sharpen that mask again. Go to Subtool, come up here to Extract. We'll go up a little bit thicker, 0.008. Hit Accept when that's done. Too thick, way too thick. Come down to 0.04. Hit Accept, and you'll notice that we forgot to unmask our cap, so we can just Control Shift left click and then hold Alt to switch to red, and then go to Geometry, Modify Topology, and then Delete Hidden. Now we have just the color in there. Let's smooth that guy out just a little bit, maybe run a Dynamesh at 1,000 or so, and switch over to my H polish basically immediately. 1800 we'll switch it to, and then start running a polish on that guy. Just around the edges. And then going back to our orthographic view and go to the clip curve, Control Shift left click, and then start to clean this guy up a little. Pull it back into place. In fact, this is probably the thing we need to pull into place, is his actual neck. I want his neck to be a little scrawnier. And then we'll switch back and we'll extract a tie shape. Do a subtool and do a extract, accept, unmask, and then rerun a Dynamesh on there. Crank it to well beyond that, I think. We're in a pretty large scale. You'll notice that this number is scale dependent, like whatever real world scale your character's at. So the head, I think it's pretty large, but Zbrush likes you to work in tiny scale, so that's the reason we have to crank that resolution a lot. Tuck that guy up underneath there. Okay, so now I'm going to clear my mask on the body mesh, and now I'm going to extract a suit shape. Just go around the neck. And do subtool and extract. Accept on that. So just smooth that guy back. Dynamesh. Same old stuff. Now we've kind of got a suit in there. I need to get the collar of the suit in. It's so ridiculous. It just makes me giggle each time I look at it. His neck shape underneath here is pretty wild, so let's fix that. I mean, he's a man in his 40s, late 40s or so, so he's not going to be perfectly defined under here. I can attest to that. My neck is, my jawline isn't nearly as defined as the good old days. And a little flabby. A little bit flabby, a little bit of roundness. Add some age to him. Okay, so now in here, I'm going to crank my resolution just a little bit, give me more polygons to work with. And then I'm going to paint out the collar shapes using my mask pen. Around like so. And then let's see what we got here. So, whoops. Just undid and redid and broke the world. So, okay, I'm gonna get this shape in here. So it's not reaching around the other side. Okay, we're good. So then come up here like so. Remember, just hold the Control-Alt to invert your mask. Oops. Should I give him a woman's suit? I think he got it at what was the store he got the woman's suit at? Out of the bargain bin. What was that? Thickness, we'll go to 0.006, hit extract, hit accepts. So now we have a collar, but we need to, let's give it a little bit of inflation. Just a smidge. Geometry, Dynamesh, we'll crank it to 1400 or so and turn on polish for this. You'll notice that it does kind of a broad polishing throughout the mesh, and this can be problematic in some ways, and in some ways it can help, so just be careful with that tool. Make sure that these guys are getting some nice crisp points. And then we'll turn off solo mode and make sure that it's sitting on the top of our collar and just kind of sitting right up on top of that guy. And then run over that with the H polish and we'll just clean that up. Clean up our mess. One thing to keep in mind with H polish is it doesn't work too well with Geo that has thickness that's not super thick. It's really thin, but actually has a thickness to it. So just be careful to check the other side to make sure that you're not going to have that Dynamesh in a weird way. Just run a Damien standard on this. I just crank the resolution on there to 2500 to give us some real polys. And then rerun that. And one fun brush I love that I don't use super commonly, but I'm excited whenever I get to use it, is the pinch brush. Sometimes I'll run just a broad pinch over proportions and things, and it'll do fun things with the character. So that's a good one for the repertoire. So H polish and pinch, clean this guy up. Really want to give it like this thick edge. Kind of gotten away from right here. This is gonna look weird. I'm gonna re-Dynamesh. honestly, one of the best ways to approach this is just to Z-remesh it and use a clean geo. But I'm trying to keep this video nice and short. We're at about 45 minutes right now. So we turn off solo, get this guy up and into place. So this is 45 minutes right here, and in the next video I'm just gonna probably do another half hour, 45 minutes of refinements, and we'll do a poly paint, maybe get out some renders, and then we'll wrap it up. So anyways, if you like this video, if you like this approach, let me know what you guys think. If you like the idea of doing, some of these fun characters from these different goofy shows, doing some caricatures. I mean, you learn a lot too. You learn basic anatomy and proportions and things like that. Even by doing stylized proportions, I think it helps to kind of move things along. But anyways, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next, and we'll see you in the next video.